dough, bucks, moolah, benjamins, greenbacks, cash, cabbage, scratch, loot, cheddar, money. Why do we have so many names for it? Because it's kind of important. That's why we took 2 episodes to talk about Agile funding. Last week talking about what it is and giving you a real life example. Today we're going to talk about techniques on how you can implement Agile funding at your work to get all the benefits, and then walk you through 2 examples of giant organizations that are using Agile funding and are transforming themselves right in front of us, but we don't even notice. Hey everybody, Tom Auld here, your friendly neighborhood product owner, ready to close up the topic of Agile funding and get you all the pieces that you need to give this crucial tactic a chance so you, your team, your company can stay relevant at work. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Fear of Becoming Obsolete, where we're going to take our second look at Agile funding. Last week we talked about what Agile funding was and how I use it on a regular basis when I'm flipping houses in order to hold on to my money for as long as possible before I need to spend it, because I can only spend it one time, and if I make a wrong decision, it's going to cost me in the end. Today, we're going to talk about how you can implement Agile funding in your organization or at your home, and give you 2 real-life examples of giant organizations that are doing this right in front of our eyes and are transforming themselves into brand new companies, but we barely recognize it. Let's first baseline on what traditional annual budgets give you. The traditional annual budget cycle gives us one time a year to make all of our financial decisions. Does that really make sense in today's environment? Do we really know how we should spend our money 6 months from now, let alone 12 months from now? And I've had experiences where the annual budgeting cycle isn't even done until we're 2 months into the year. And then to compound the problem, if the company has a slow start to the year, leadership is asking for budget cuts as early as fiscal quarter 2. It just becomes budget theater. We'd start to understand this pattern, so as leaders, we would just make sure to spend all of our budget as fast as possible in quarter 1 because we knew if we spent it, it couldn't be taken back. It's not even close to doing the best thing for the company. We were thinking very selfishly because our system made us think that way. We'd be punished if we tried to be agile with our funding in a company that did a traditional annual budgeting, and we would wait until later in the year to use that money. If we had that money unused, it was at risk of being taken away. So now that we know what reality looks like, why don't we try to evolve our budgeting process to be more agile? First, you have to acknowledge how much time do you spend on the budgeting process today, and what benefit do you get from it? If your budget is due by December 31st, you start working on it in September, and you maybe have it in place by March. So you really only get 6 months where this budget is stable out of 12 months. It's ridiculous. So why keep doing something we all agree is futile just because we used to do it this way? Then you need to understand how much of your budget overall is non-discretionary. Things like the costs to run our buildings, to run our technology. A lot of our money just literally goes to keeping the lights on. We have to allocate money for that first. But now it gets harder. The business has to understand, where does it make money today, and how much do we want to invest in that area to keep the revenue flowing in? Say we have a successful product line that's bringing in $1 billion a year. How much do we need to invest in maintenance, cost reduction opportunities, and new features in order to keep that $1 billion in revenue or more coming in? Then we want to understand where our future sources of revenue are coming from, and how much do we want to invest to explore those areas. Do we want to invest $10 million in 4 separate ideas where there's a $100 million annual lift for each product? If we did that and only hit one product idea that worked, we'd still be up $60 million because we spent the $40 million to make $100 million. But if we hit on 2 ideas, we make $200 million for the same $400 million investment. Then the last thing the company must do is decide, how often do we want to change our mind on how we spend our money? Quarterly? Every 6 months? Every month is probably too fast. Unless you're a startup, then that's the maximum amount of time you should be using your budget process, because your world is changing so fast, you need to be that agile. The most successful approach I've seen so far is a 5-quarter rolling budget. That means we have 5 quarters of budget forecasted, even more than an annual cycle. But with every quarter, we review it, and we make the next quarter's budget, the one just coming up, 100% ready. And then 2 quarters away, we have it 80% ready. 3 quarters, 60%, 4 quarters, 40%, 5 quarters, 20%. I think you can see the pattern. But this way, we have a solid understanding of our financial direction, but we have left space to adapt to real-world issues and opportunities. Putting this process in place takes about the same amount of energy and time it takes to do an annual budget, but then the quarterly process becomes much less of an investment in time and energy. After 3 or 4 quarters, this process and the mindset it empowers is embedded from the top of the organization to the bottom, and agile behaviors follow, leading to cost reductions and more innovative solutions. This approach is so logical, but it's really hard to implement because it takes a lot of discipline and research to make decisions by these leaders and product owners on how to invest our money. It's kind of easy just to look at 12 months down the road and just say, yeah, I think that's where it's going to go. Let's just throw a dart at it and guess. Doing it every quarter, you have to revisit ideas constantly and reevaluate. But that's what Agile is. It's inspect and adapt. Once we have information, now we can make a better decision than we could 3 months ago. So every quarter, our decisions get better. Why would we not want to invest in that? There is a mentality at the leadership that we must take our strengths of today and use that revenue to invest in the ideas that'll keep us relevant in the future. Okay, so I've shown you how this agile funding works at my tiny little real estate company. But how does it work at real giant companies? Here's 2 examples you might recognize. Have you ever heard of Amazon Web Services? In 2003, Amazon was systematically reshaping retail. Their growth forced them to build the most scalable infrastructure ever conceived. In 2006, they realized they were so far ahead of everybody else that they could start offering this service to others. The idea began as operating system of the internet, where different hardware resources are isolated, namely computage, storage, memory, as components to this operating system, and served up as managed services, which would take all the undifferentiated heavy lifting off the developer's hands. This was a revolutionary idea, which takes the need to manage hardware and physical infrastructure away and allows businesses just to focus on their business case. Amazon decided to dive into turning this idea into reality. Amazon was already fantastic at building reliable and cost-effective data centers out of necessity, and as they continued to explore the idea more and more, they realized that this domain of computing was not only untouched, but had a massive potential for both Amazon as a business and AWS as an arm of Amazon on its own right. Just this week, Amazon reported AWS quarterly revenue as $22.1 billion, up 12% year over year. And they expect this to continue to grow by double digits for the next 7 to 10 years. This is how Amazon took the money from one part of their business, retail, to fund a new idea and turn it into a massive growth engine. So, is Amazon a retail company? Or is Amazon a technology company? Or is it a supply chain company? Yes to all of those. That's why they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So let me give you another example. Apple. Apple's just a hardware, software, and consumer electronics company, right? do you realize they are now a bank and they are disrupting the financial services industry? Apple Pay's revenue grew from $1 billion in 2021 to $1.9 billion in 2022. Apple Pay is currently available in 76 countries worldwide. Apple Pay's user base grew from 521.4 million users to 538 million users in 2022. Apple Pay dominates the US digital banking industry with a 92% market share. And according to recent data, Apple Pay processes around $6 trillion in transactions annually. The initial idea for the service can be traced back to the work of former Apple executive EDQ, who played a crucial role in developing the company's digital media strategy and expanding its online services. Sure, Apple could have kept building iPhones and iPads and MacBooks, but they realized there was an untapped business area that their hardware put them in a unique position to disrupt. So they reallocated budget to capture this opportunity, and now they're going to reap those awards for at least the next decade, if not longer. So there you go. A technical description of Agile funding, a personal example of Agile funding and how it works for me, ideas on how you can activate Agile funding at your organization to start reaping the benefits, and a few examples of two giants in the business world, how they're leveraging Agile funding to future-proof their business. So what examples of Agile funding do you have? Do you have a favorite company that's doing this? Are you personally using a model of Agile funding? I invite you to share your ideas and thoughts in the comments so we can help each other get better and stay relevant at work. So how did we do today? Did we add any value for you? Did we miss an obvious pop culture reference? Did we miss an obvious example? Please throw it in the comments and help us be better next time. And if you did get any value, please do us a favor, like, subscribe, and share our silly little videos. Any boost you can give will go a long way to keeping us, yourself, your friends, and your enemies relevant at work. I am Tom Auld, your friendly neighborhood product owner signing off. Have a valuable week. Take care.